pulls it forward, then by doing that, you have a way that you can stay alive. And what I have found from all the people that I've known in my life, and I would say myself included, is that business is an endurance game. It's a marathon. It's about staying alive and outlasting. And the way that you outlast is you continue to have ways to generate cash flow for the business. So I'm going to walk you through the model that broke the gym industry. So when I got into the gym game, what people ran was something called an LBO, which is not a leveraged buyout, but they called it that because it was a low barrier offer, all right? And so this is what those gyms did at the time. So they would run a $21, 21-day promotion, right? So that was their front-end offer. That was their attraction offer. Now, is that a good attraction offer? Not by my standards, but it was an attraction offer. For me, this would probably be a downsell. But for them, this is what they were running on the front end. And what's really interesting about all the offer structures that I mentioned in the Money Models book, which you'll soon learn about, is that all of those offers can be used anywhere. But I tend to bucket them in this way because I think they better satisfy this specific objective. Back to the story. They were running $21, 21-day promotions. And this is back when people could, in a local market, convert maybe 25 or even 30% of leads. Lead quality has gone down on those platforms. But let's just walk through it with like really bull case scenario, the best case scenario. So they're closing 1 out of 4 leads. So let's say they get 100 leads, which would cost them, let's say that their lead cost was $20. All right, so it's going to cost them $2,000 to get 100 leads. Okay, fine. Now, they're going to convert 25% of these leads, and their price point is going to be $21, which means that they're going to make $525. Well, that's in the first 21 days. Now, of these 25, what percentage of these people are going to convert to continuity? This guy, the membership. Well, the industry average for these types of trials is 35%. So let's just call it a third and say 8 of those people are going to convert, and let's say that their price point is $99. All right, so now they have another $800 here. Okay, fine. Now, the average stay of a customer that's at $99 a month is going to be usually, and this is kind of sad, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 5-ish months for the industry average. It's much lower than you think it is. And so that means that they've got another $4,000 that's going to come in off of these 8 people. So all we have to do is add this up. So they got 525, they got 800 at the conversion, and then they got 5 more months. I'm actually technically giving them 6, but let's give it to them. That means they were at 4,800 plus that, we're at 5,325. Now, if they spent $2,000 to make that, it's okay. You know, they made some money, but they still have rent, they have admin, they have trainers, they have other stuff that has to get factored into this. I'm not even taking into account gross profit here, which is a huge factor. All right, but let's just leave it at these numbers. That's okay. You can kind of compete, you'll live, but you're probably not going to make much. And so this is what I did in the gym industry, and this is what changed the game. I'll put this little number here. So remember we had 100 leads, right? Well, we made 5,325, which means the maximum amount of money that we could spend, right, from these would be $53 per lead. Now, you couldn't actually realistically spend that money because you have every other cost in the business you'd have to spend and you'd be losing money. Let's just use that as a hypothetical. And again, I'm just trying to bolster this scenario. Now, what we did was this. Someone would come in and we ran a free 6-week challenge or a 6-week challenge, 42-day detox, 42-day transformation, tons of different wrappers, but basically a 6-week thing. All right, and so let's say we got our same 100 leads. Now, our 100 leads, especially if we had a free offer on the front end, would be usually about half the cost. And so that means that, let's say we were spending, they spent $20 a lead, we'd spend 10. Now, I'm gonna make this the worst case scenario for this one. So let's say we spent 20. We spent the same amount for these leads, even though we wouldn't. Let's just say we did. So we spent the same $2,000 to get these leads. Great. All right, these are our leads. Let's say we convert even less of these leads. All right, let's say that we're gonna convert 15% of these leads. So we're gonna get 15 sales. Now, important point. I had the perspective that when someone signs up for something like a gym, their highest point of motivation is the moment they walk in the door. That is when they're the most deprived of the outcome. They're so in pain that they booked an appointment, they clicked a lead, they opted in, they responded to a phone call, they got in their car, they drove all the way there. They're ready to change. That is the point that I'm not trying to sell someone something for $20. I'm trying to sell them something for $500. Right? The point of greatest pain. Now, maybe it's $5,000,